Hello, STL girl. How are you? Welcome to Sunday Night Live. I finally made it. I'm just bringing it up on my phone. I finally made it. Good evening, Decluttering Mama. That's kind of a nice name, Stevie. And Nadia. How's everybody doing tonight? Is my sound okay? I should check it. It looks like it's working. I switched the cameras around.
Did you get a permit?
Yep.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Little interruption there. Hi, Jenna. Sound is good. Excellent. Hi, Joy. So tonight I thought we would do something fun. And I thought that I would do communication with your ancient ancestors. So that's going to be our topic tonight, is talking to your ancient ancestors. So I'm talking about possibly going back to the caveman days, or the 1100s, 1200s, 1300s, and then we can interview them and we can say, what was life like back then? What did you do? You know, what was your everyday life like? And I thought we could learn a lot from your ancestors. So who wants to be in on that? Say me, type M-E-M-E-M-E, me, if you want to be in on that. And then if you showed up tonight and you have like a question and that leaves our topic, then you have to let me know what your question is. Oh, look at all the me's. Oh, isn't this going to be fun? Oh, yeah, this is like my fairy. This is my kick-ass fairy shirt. So, without further ado, I'm kind of excited about tonight because I felt like all of your ancestors were coming in. Let me see if I know how to pin a comment so I can say, tonight is ancestor night. Tonight is speaking with your ancestors. Woo! Can't wait for that. Oh, how do I pin this? Pin. Okay. I'm starting to learn YouTube. All right. Me. Okay, this is great. So let's start with the first one. I'll get a list going. I'm going to write in fuchsia tonight. Hi, Carrie Lee London. Mina and I are here. Thanks for the beautiful numerology cards. Woo! Did you get those? Wonderful. Wonderful. My web page is just about up, but not quite. I have to tweak out some big things, but I have the videos and how to do it. So I'm tweaking out a couple of things on it, and then it'll be ready, and then I'll give we'll have a big celebration for the web page. Oh my freaking God, has that been a path for me to be on. But no more whining on this end. Hi, Jules. So let's go to the first me and see who wants. For those of you joining, you have to say me, M-E, because we should all be focused on ourselves. That's not selfish. And we'll start with the me's. STL girl, we're going to tap into her ancestor right now. And I'm using a variety of decks. to get this information. So STL girl, you're first. And then we've got Angela Kenworthy. And then we've got Joy amongst us. Decluttering. Aaron O'Nugent. We're getting our list together. Wow, we got a lot of people that we're going to be tapping into some good ancestors. Let's see. Joy, I got you in there already. Carrie and Mina and Jules. Hi, Lynn. You got to type me if you want in on the ancestors because we're getting to the list here. And we're going to start right now. STL girl, who we calling in? Who we calling in? Who we calling in? I'm a little bit excited about this because I love ancestors. All right, STL girl, who we going to talk to? Woo! I'm getting like goosebumps. Holy smolies. Wow. Do you guys want to see the cards or you want me just to read the cards and shut the fuck up? Sometimes I show you the cards because I like to show you the cards. STL girl, your ancestor was tied to cats, lived in a little village. However, she said villages in this era were miles apart. So if you had like 5 homes that were like 50 miles apart, that was a village. So you sometimes had to travel hours to get to your neighbor, but it was still called a village. They've defined village different than they define it now. So you took animal hides and made clothing that was functional for the travelers to travel in because they needed rainproofing, they needed layers for the cold so they could take the layers off. And then the clothes, she's telling me, it's a woman, and she's telling me that you could take your cape and do a few things with it, put some strings through the holes or not even strings, whatever this was, twisted leather shit, and make it into a bag. And then pretty soon it was a bag. So it was a cloak, it was a bag, it was like all this multifunctional clothing. And she tells me that you also have a tie to like, she liked to wear things on her wrist, bracelets or something. So you're tied with jewelry, you're tied to her with clothes, like and a sunny disposition. She was very happy. She also used to take tree branches that would fall and make useful things out of them. So she said a lot of times you had to pry things. You needed something to pry something open because the women weren't as strong back then. So you'd have to pry, like if a tire got stuck, you'd have to pry it out of the mud. So it looks like they had very ancient wheels back then, and they would break or get stuck. And she made these tree branch tools, if you will. Now, STL girl, if you want to comment, if there's anything in here that's you have a question for her, like I have a question for her, ask it right away so I get it picked up on here. And then while I have her tapped in, I'm going to ask her. So she said she could wear the cape, take it off, do some strings, put all of her fruits and stuff and veggies in there and travel for the day. Because a lot of times when they had to go to a neighbor's, it was like they would have to stay overnight at the neighbor's because it was, if they went during the day, stayed for any period of time, they couldn't get back in time for the night to pray on them. And so it was just common to have a place where they would sleep, even if it's on the floor on a mat. That was common. You had somebody stop by and they were going to sleep. You fed them and they slept there. And she said that was like everyday stuff. You didn't, even necessarily have to say, hey, I'm coming over to your house because there was no telephone. So people just walked by, showed up, they slept on your floor. Everything was fine back then. So she lived on the side of a hillside with a lot of trees, and that was a very hot climate. It was a very hot climate. And she also found ways to make rocks into like bowls so that she could use a rock to have a little bit of liquid in. So she could bring water back from the stream and utilize that water in a rock, pour little bits of that. And by the way, her bag would hold water too. She twisted it differently. And then the bag, which is animal hide, would hold water. So freaking interesting. She is very interesting. What did they do for work? Okay, so she's going, what do you mean work? Because we didn't have external jobs. We all lived on our homesteads. And she said, what do you mean work? There's no money. There was no money back then. And she said, we grew our own food, and these bags that I made, I exchanged for food that we couldn't grow. So the soil composition, like those who live near water could grow different things than those who lived up on the hillside and had drier or different soil compositions. So she would make these things out of animal hides and trade them for different types of food so that they could get all the minerals. So there's if you want to call her work, then she made these like cape bags, but they were survival. Everything was survival based. So it wasn't the pleasure of work and, oh, I have some money and now I'm going to go shopping. There were no shops. No shops. Stores did not exist. It was just houses, and everybody survived on their own with what they could grow. In harsh times where it was famine times, they died or they migrated, because there were certain times, certain seasons every so many years where they could expect like drought or disaster. And if they could predict this ahead of time, they migrated and they left their homestead, which is fine because, there's no electricity. And then they would come back up to a year later. They'd be gone a year, and up to a year later, they'd come back. So they didn't have work. Yeah, I would have starved to death too. I would have for sure starved to death. So STL girl, your ancestor was super excited. Now, if any of you have questions for these ancestors, ask. Because while we have them on, we should tap into their knowledge. And that was a good question. What do they do for work? Oh, Lynn Palmer wanted in. Okay, Lynn. Lynn, I caught you tonight. Aaron O'Nugent, you're already in. Okay. Angela Kenilworthy, your ancestor was a locksmith, and you can see that he's unlocking a chest. And he's saying that this was in the late 1400s when valuables that were travelers needed to be locked against and he's saying a word for thieves, and I don't recognize what the word is. But anyway, thieves. Because thieves would come and they would steal things. So they had very heavy cases. It took 2 to 3 people to get them off the wagons. And they had a lock. And so this person was a locksmith and carried a bag of, he only had 5 different keys. But he would make 5 different keys, and then he would put the locks on, and he traveled. Now look at his shoes. He didn't even have really shoes. These were like animal skins. There was no formal shoe, or if there was, he didn't have access to having a shoe. So he just wore like moccasins, I want to call them. Moccasins. And he carried this bag of keys, and he would put the locks on these wooden boxes that he did not make. He was only a locksmith. He did not make the boxes, but the boxes were made, and he put the locks on, and he said they were heavy duty. And a lot of times the people had to strap the key somewhere because a lot of people traveled without purses. Like women didn't have purses. He said it was rare that people even carried a bag. He carried a bag. And the people that carried a bag, he said they knew that you did something like locksmith, or you did something that caused you to have to carry a bag, because there's no reason for a bag if you're not traveling. Because there's also the barter system. I'm getting the idea 1400s, very ancient buildings. Now, he indicated that in your ancestry, Angela, take care of your knees, because he was always down on his knees, and he said that the knees get weak when you don't take care of the knees. And he didn't have the necessarily supplements like calcium and that, so their knees deteriorated quickly. Those who had to spend a lot of time on their knees getting up, their knees deteriorated. So he's telling you, take care of your knees. And he said to honor, if you want to honor your ancestry, get a skeleton key, like the ones with the big, fancy skeleton key, and that would honor your ancestors. Woo! Super cool. Your knees hurt when you hike? Blame the ancestors. It's your fault. It's your fault my knees hurt. That's funny. Isn't this fun? I freaking love this when Spirit gives me ideas because it always ends up being a very interesting night. All right, next ancestor belongs to Joy. Joy, are you still on? Joy, what is the rest of your name? You had something on there with Joy amongst forever spark. If you're on, we are now tapping into your ancestor. What you want to look for with the ancestor are any traits that you still have in common with them, or just, knowing how hard of a life your ancestors had. What the heck is my hair doing tonight? It's being weird. Okay, now, Joy, your ancestors said there's an explosion to the family tree. So I'm asking why the family tree exploded. Why did the family tree explode? So let me ask that. The most unique readings are always here. Yeah. Tell everybody about my page. Share. Share the page if you can. I don't know how you share a YouTube that's live. I don't know if you can. All right. Joy, why was there an explosion in the family tree? Oh, because of death. Because of death. So because of death, most of your ancestors died. There was like this something went through and wiped out all but 2 of your ancestors. Holy F. Holy F. All but 2 of your ancestors? What the F? I wonder if your ancestors continued, like if they grew a big family, or if a lot of them had just only childs, or if they made them have really big families for fear that that line would be wiped out. There was a fear like that line would be wiped out. All but 2 in this area, they're saying. In this area, all but 2, and it was a male and a female. Look at that, death. There's skeleton on the shelf, and they weren't happy. The 2 that had to continue the ancestry. Now, I don't feel like the relatives had to mate each other, but they had to mate. And I don't know. They're not terming sex as enjoyable. They're terming it mate, like mating like animals. They had to mate, and they weren't happy because I don't think they would have mated. I don't think they wanted to mate. I don't think that was what they wanted. And now they were forced to if they wanted to continue your ancestors. So they did. They mated and had children. But they only had a couple children because they said they were older in life. Maybe that's why they didn't want to mate. Where at the scenery? Hello from Sweden. You had a dream about burning trees in relation to people dying and wiping out future generations. How weird is that, Jules? Okay, so Joy, did you have a question? You're Lakota. Oh my God. You're Lakota? Well, this would hit home then. Anyway, let me continue because they did have children. This is a powerful reading for you, Joy. Yes, it did sound sad, but they did have children, even though they were later in life. They did what you call mate. They mated. And let me find out where this went. Ooh, you have like an ancestor who is in the stars, who is very much like you. And she said, do you ever take your hair and put it on one side? Like you swipe your hair to the other side? this ancestor did. She would take her hair and put it on one side, and she was very elegant, and she said that you're very refined and that you come from very special bloodlines. Very special bloodlines. And she said you are actually, they love you. You're like a star. You're like I'm talking movie star material. They're happy with you being the ancestor because you're tough. They said you're tough. You get through everything that you need to get through. And look at this. They're helping you. Your ancestors are helping you. And I wonder if you see flashes of light, because they flash light at me, and it's on my side of my eyes, and they're flashing light. So I think your ancestors are still talking to you. And if I were you, I would have like a tree nearby, or I would be connected to trees, because I feel like they traveled and knew where they were going based on how the trees were. They had some markings in the trees that told them where to go, and they relied, like they knew by the trees what things were going to happen. Like it's almost like they could communicate with trees. It's very weird. But they were interesting people. Tribal member. Okay, gotcha. Wow, that was an interesting one. Decluttering. Stevie, you are next. Are you still on? We're talking to ancestors tonight. You are connected to trees, and I see a light flash when no one else does. You can't even make this shit up on a good day, can you? Can you believe that? Wow. Your ancestors are like right there. Super cool. I guess that's why we did this tonight, because your ancestors really wanted to talk to you tonight. On to the next one is Stevie. Stevie, we're going to talk to your ancestors. You're welcome. Janet, let me put you on the list. Janet. All right, I got a list here of ancestor readings. All right, Stevie, your ancestors I'm tapping into them right now, but just a minute here. Your ancestors had a change, Stevie. They had a change. They started out with dark-skinned people, and they would dye their skin. So that's tattoos, I'm assuming. They dyed their skin. They were dark-skinned people, and then they came upon, or their village was overtaken by another race, and you became white-skinned, red-haired. I don't even know, Stevie, what you look like. I don't even know if you have your picture on Facebook. I never pay attention to that stuff. But do you have red in your hair, or anybody have red? Because this particular race through the years ended, and then you became light-skinned, red-haired race. But you still retained the dark skin undertones. So it makes me wonder if your skin is like almost like two-toned, and if you have any red in your hair. Now, your ancestors used energy. They were highly evolved spiritual beings, and so they would throw energy with their hands, or they believed they were throwing energy with their hands, or tossing energy with their hands. And here's the hands. So your ancestors are telling me you have extra palm chakras. So I don't know if you do Reiki, but you've got extra energy in your palms. So definitely you could do some kind of energy work with your hands. Both of these ancestors are tied to water, the element of water. And your power symbol, they're giving me a power symbol. Let me write it down. I'm not sure what this means. I'm going to write it down. I'll write it on the back of this. All right, there's a power symbol, but it's two symbols and they go together. One is a triangle and it can be any direction, and the other is a triangle with a line in the middle. Those are your power symbols, Stevie. I would write those down because I don't keep these sheets, so write that down. So you have hand healing, you have the ability to work with spirits, and you've got a connection to water. That could be essential oils too, if you wanted to translate it to that. Only colored red. Oh, did you color it red? That would be freaking weird if you colored your hair red. I would have to go white myself because that would be weird. That would be weird because then you're trying to tap into that energy of your ancestors. Aaron O'Nugent, are you there? I'm going to be tapping into your ancestors using a variety of tarot decks. So the next one is Aaron O'Nugent. Holy crap. We have a priest. Yup. A priest. But he was back in the days when the priests did the charting of the stars. The high priest did the charting of the stars, and they did calculations. So it was a calculation type of priest, which is, I'm not understanding this. It's like astrology or the cycles, and it's almost like this priest is connected to a stone circle somewhere. Like this priest knew how to take the magnetics of the earth and the properties and the alignment of the stars and create an energy vortex using stone circles. Aaron O'Nugent, are you connected to stone circles or large stones or priests like, high priests like wisdom, knowledge, ancient secrets? This was a society of priests, so he wasn't the only one. He wasn't the only one ordained. It was a group. Let me find out what he wants to say. Wow. They had to keep hidden or they would have been killed. They had to keep their knowledge hidden or they would have died. So their knowledge was carried on through word of mouth, nothing written. Oh my God, and there's a whole bunch of skulls. A lot of them died. There's a whole bunch of skulls. See them all? There's a lot of them that did not make it. So what knowledge do you want to share with us now? Is there any knowledge that's applicable now? Aaron, he said that you're strong as a woman. You're strong and you have inner strength and you have wisdom coming in from places that you don't even know how to identify with. And he said, accept the wisdom that comes in through you and keep your inner strength. Keep your inner strength going. Build on your inner strength. Build on your courage. And he's going to start communicating with you if you want him to. If you want him, just call him the high priest and he will come in and help you. He'll give you ideas in your mind and he'll share a lot of the teachings with you. So they expect them to be astrological and maybe astrology based, but they could be anything at this point. And he's going to share with you some ideas. He's going to modernize the concepts. He's going to take their knowledge, modernize it, and then feed it to you. God, let us know. If you get hits on this, please come back to the YouTube channel and let us all know what you learn. Call him in, the priest. He'll know. When you say the priest, he'll know who you're talking about or who you're talking to. He will know. Carrie, we'll take you first and Mina second. I'm writing a number 1. Carrie's ancestors. I know, I'm dumbfounded. Carrie's ancestors. Oh my God. Just a minute. How can this be? I don't know how this can be. Your ancestors are not from here. You have ancestors coming in that there's no earth here. There's no earth here. Earth is not here. Jesus. Their time traveler came in. A time traveler came in. I just saw the machine. It's down here. This is time. There's time in here. There's a time traveler showing up as your ancestor. How can that fucking be, Carrie? Wow. Wow. What do I do with this? Wow. What do I do with this? A time traveler. Let me see what to do with this. How could you have an ancestor? How can you have an ancestor, which is your past, be a time traveler, which has to be the future? This is going to be one to sit at the edge of your chair for. Woo! Look at the look he's giving me. He's like, you don't know half of what this universe can do. That's what he's telling me. You don't know half of what this universe can do. So why are you here, time traveler? And what is your message for Carrie? I mean, what is this? Wow, there's no people in here. There's just water. Carrie, this ancestor lived in a time like near an ocean where there's not very many people, and they had to live off what they caught in the ocean in this particular time. But I'm being told that that's just one section of the time, because the time machine is always here. They could always at any point transfer to another time. This is the weirdest thing I've ever done. I'm sorry that I'm stumbling here, because this time machine is showing up in all these different cards. Mina's giggling. I wish I could giggle. Okay, what does Carrie have to know from this time traveler? Give her a message so we can have an idea. You're tied in with the time travelers. You're tied in. Your blood. Remember how we used to like make a little bit of blood and then what did you call that? Where you cut each other and touched your blood? What was that called? Blood sisters, something like that? You're tied in with your blood to DNA that's off the planet. And also, oh fuck, did you just notice this? There's people in those glasses. Jesus Christ. There's people inside the glasses. You're a hybrid. They made your ancestors in test tubes. Oh my God. Your ancestors were made in test tubes. You're a hybrid. If you want to believe any of this, you could just say, Melanie, you're so fucking full of shit, it's coming out your ears. Yeah, it's there. I don't know what to say with that. I would say, do you have issues around time? Are you fascinated with time? Do clocks do weird things? Do you wake up at certain times? It's very weird. You were a medic and took lots of blood. Well, that's weird. Blood sisters. Yeah, but I have a feeling that blood thing has to do with the test tube, like a hybrid. That is weird. All right, let's hope that Mina's reading is more normal. All right, let me grab another deck. All right, Mina. Time for you to giggle, Carrie, at Mina's reading. Let's see what Mina has. Oh, wow. Mina, You kind of were jungle people. You lived in the jungles, all right? There's the jungles, and there wasn't very many of you. Small group. You lived in the trees, you lived in the jungle, you wore long robes. What did you do? Oh, wow. All right, so you lived in the jungles until you migrated, and then the people, as you migrated, you took over the land, which is common. And you took over the land, and when you first sat in your first chair, you were like, whoa, I'm fucking in love with chairs. Like when you first came across chairs, you didn't even know what the hell a chair was. And then when your tribe took over this land, and I don't know why they took it over, and they discovered chairs, and they discovered somewhat modern civilization, it like totally freaked you out. Because think of that. Your ancestors who used to living in the jungle, and all of a sudden they had a roof over their head and they had chairs. And it makes me wonder if you sit in a chair a lot. Like if you love chairs, are you picky about chairs? Very weird. But they were also, even though they took over this land, loving people. They want you to know that they were not mean. They were loving people. So they ruled with love, not hatred. They want you to know that. They eventually learned how to make cups. All right. So they were cup makers. So they're showing like the ancient symbols they would put on their cups. And then here's a whole wall of cups. And so that might be cool that you could have a cup engraved with a symbol after your ancestors. Mina, maybe you could ask the ancestors to send you a symbol and put it on a cup as honoring your ancestors. That would be like super cool. That was a little more normal. I'm okay with that one. Carrie's, I'm still blowing my mind away from that. She likes big throne chairs. Get the fuck. Are you kidding? Nah, really? Are you messing with me, Mina? Don't be messing with me. It's really easy with my simple brain. Time is not real for you. I guess not. Because what is time if you can travel and there's a speed of time? Jules, are you here? Jules, we're going to tap into your ancestors. Here we go. Who are Jules' ancestors and what do they want? Woo! Girl, this is from the Victorian age. This ancestor is coming from the Victorian age. She is happy to represent your one of your ancestors. She traveled on a ship that had a big wheel. And women didn't drive the ships back then. But women were very important to the ships. Like the ships could not literally sail without the women. So she was like the shipmaster's main person on the ship. So she kept the ship hands in line. She was tough and she was organized. And she's like, y'all gonna do this or you're gonna be sorry if you don't do it. She ruled with an iron hand and she kept the ship running. She also always has this drink in her hand. She's always got a drink in her hand. So whatever she was drinking was awesome because she's always drinking it. I wonder if you drink something over and over again. Now, later in life, she had an injury to one leg and she needed a cane. So she had a horse's head carved at the top of the cane because she always yearned for horses, but she lived on a ship. And she was actually born on a ship, grew up on a ship, and really when she walked on land, it was weird. She got so used to the rocking ship that walking on land was like, weird because she was living on a ship. Oh, thank you, Carrie Lee London. Jules, so your ancestor rarely got to walk on land, but when she did, because they would travel to the port and the people would be ready to load the boat and unload the boat, and there was very little time. They got the food that they needed for the next voyage, so you only got to walk on land a little bit. So it was a treat. It was a big treat to walk on the land. I wonder if you hate like cruises, because this woman, she like did not want a cruise. Now there was one time when the captain got sick and she had to navigate with the wheel, and she said that thing took a man's strength. So she's showing you how muscular you can be, and that the women of your ancestors can have really strong arms. In fact, ridiculously strong arms. You'd be like, where did I get these big arms from? Us, because you needed them to be on the ship. But she was gorgeous. She was very gorgeous. Wore her hair long. Most of her life she wore it long. She's going to send you a gift of a coin that's different. And I almost feel like it's a wheat penny. It's supposed to be modern coins, but it's not. And I don't know if you've received the gift yet. If you collect coins that are not normal, like because she's going to send you a coin that's based on her life. And so it feels like it's wheat or a wheat penny or has some weird symbol on it. So look for that sign unless you already have a coin that she sent you with that's not a normal coin. I think you could use it as money, but you might not want to. I've always had an unnatural desire to have a horse. I got my dad to take us horseback riding a lot when you were young. Well, there, you got that from her. I wonder if you have that coin. Do you have the coin? Like, oh, I want to see the coin. Lynn Palmer, you are up next. Lynn Palmer, who was your ancestor? Where's my deck, Lynn? Lynn, it's over here. Your ancestors are playing jokes on me, Lynn Palmer. They have a great sense of humor. Lynn Palmer, who are your ancestors? Let them come through now. Let them come through now. Lynn, you were a monkey, an ape. No, I'm kidding. Maybe you were. They lived in the trees. See the ladder going up to the trees? They would not have survived if they couldn't have hidden in the trees because of all the stuff that could have killed them down here. So they lived in the trees. They tied things in the trees so that if they would fall at night, that they'd be tied into the tree. Like if they'd roll over, it hung them. They still were connected to the tree. So they tied themselves and their little ones into the trees. Weird. What else did they do? They were studied by modern man. So the group of people rarely saw modern man. But one day a scientist or a science guy came in and he wanted to write a book about them, but they had no language. There was no language skill. The tribe that lived in the trees didn't speak English. So this guy was very frustrated because a lot of times he went there and he'd have to climb a tree to talk to these people because they headed to the trees. Your ancestors headed up to the trees when this guy would, because they were afraid of him. He looked different. He had these things on the eyes. They didn't know what glasses were, and they were like, that fucker, we're going in the trees. But he was adamant that he was going to write a book about your tribe or whatever they call them. You don't have the coin yet? Oh, it's coming. I want to see a pic when it comes. Oh my God. Eventually, and it took years, you formed a bond with his son. So he died never being close to your tribe because you didn't trust him. But his son grew up with the father's work, and the tribe eventually befriended the tree people, and this guy's son finally made peace and brought the knowledge to modern man about the tree people. Are you afraid of heights, Lynn? eventually you were just about wiped out by the I don't want to say modern people because this is a long time ago, but by what you would call modern people. They tried to wipe out your entire tribe. Look at that in the back. I mean, they tried to wipe out almost your entire tribe. That's scary. But they didn't succeed or you wouldn't have been here. You have a guy coming with a hat that's giving you a hat. And he said the tree people never had hats in the sense, but as they modernized, hats became important to them. You have like a restless soul from that group. Like they said that part of being in the tree people is they had to migrate a lot. They had to change and shift and go places a lot. So you have like a travel bug or a restlessness. If you can't migrate, which you can't, there's a restlessness. So he said, he's telling me that there's a restlessness in your genes, that you're restless. That's fascinating. The tree people. I wonder if you should look up trees. I just feel like you should look up tree people or some tribe that lived in the trees. You love trees. That is really fascinating. Janet Ackerlund, are you here? Janet, are you still here? We're going to talk to your ancestors. Oh, I forgot to drink my tea out of my Fuck It mug. Look at that. If anybody wants Fuck It mugs, I have different ones in this. I have bright blue ones. This one Pam, my friend Pam made for me. But everything tastes better in a Fuck It mug. Everything. You're a restless soul, Lynn? Oh my God. You can blame your ancestors, those tree people. I wonder, Lynn, if you could go by a tree, sit by a tree, and call in the ancestors, the tree people. Call them in and see, am I on the path? Is there something I need to do? Can you give me some guidance? Because it's just fascinating what you could learn from them. Maybe I should practice and doing ancestral readings. I don't know. I haven't thought about that. All right, Janet Ackerlund, are you still here, Janet? Whoa. You come from a line of gardeners. God, if that was my ancestors, I'd be like, oh shit, I'm in trouble. You came from a line of gardeners, and they, get this, they used their energy to have the plants grow. Like they used energy to help the plants grow. Like their hands. Weird, but energy coming from their hand. Why did they do that? Janet, your ancestors used energy in their hands to help the plants grow, which I think that our history is maybe not what they told us. I don't think it went from caveman to evolved. I think there were highly evolved societies that for some reason got wiped out, because your ancestors are highly evolved and they did use energy from their hands to grow plants. I think if you talk to plants, isn't there something about talking to plants and they grow better or something? Has anybody done that or heard of that? Janet, maybe you should become a plant talker. Look at this. Their hands, they're sending you love. They're sending you this sign here that they love you, the heart sign. They're talking about energy coming out from your chest, but they also say allergies, that you're susceptible to what comes in the air, that they didn't have the highest quality of lungs based on their environment. So they, so fascinating. I mean, this is really fascinating, Janet. Do you have issues or allergies or issues with your lungs? This is what they're saying is genetically you'd have to be careful of that. They also had a special tattoo of 3 spirals. My aunt says it makes all the difference. Oh, really? I kill almost every flower. See, you and me, Janet. If this was my ancestors coming in, I'd be like, oh shit. They had 3 spirals as a tattoo. So let me ask what you're supposed to know with plants. Is that important for you to do anything with plants? No. No, there's no plants. In fact, look at here. They wouldn't survive if it was because for you to grow plants. They're showing like desolate. Like all sand. They're recognizing that no. That's your ancestors. You don't do plants. But they also want to tell you that they were a highly evolved race. And they migrated. See the migrating birds? They migrated. So they migrated to where they needed to go in order to survive. So it makes me wonder, Janet, if you ever have a desire to live somewhere else part of the year, and then like kind of like a migrating type of behavior, like if you like, what do they call them, snowbirds, where you live here and then you want to have another home somewhere else or have multiple homes somewhere. It just feels like these people had different locations they migrated. You have had problems with my lung. Okay, gotcha. All right. The Grim Reaper of plants. That's funny. Wow. Janet, your ancestors can communicate with you telepathically. Telepathically. They can communicate with you telepathically. You're tied to birds. I'm sorry. There's blackbirds everywhere. There's blackbirds on these last 2 cards. I think that you're going to get messages and signs from blackbirds. Very interesting. Their messages for you is that you are intuitive, that they can speak to you in your dreams and in telepathy if you open up, if you're opened up to hearing their messages, and you don't judge, like you don't judge the message. Just accept the message for what it is. Oh my God, we're down to our last 3 minutes. Does this hour just go like I just get on and it's over? Like talk about time traveling? Boo! Hello guys. Oh, it's over now. I mean, literally, this hour goes that fast. Hello, bye. Did we say anything in between? Well, that was fun. Y'all have some really interesting ancestors. So I'm going to give thanks to all of the ancestors that came forward today and all of you for being on my channel. Thank you for joining me every Sunday night for these live shows. I will try to think up new and exciting topics every Sunday night so we can look forward to this hour together, this very short hour. Thank you, Jules. You have experienced things and have had dreams come true. Janet, you are gifted. Keep on doing it. Keep on doing what you're doing, girl, because you are gifted. So I want to thank all of you and wish you a good week. And I'm going to see you next Sunday. I'll be cranking out some more YouTube videos this